Hey everyone, and welcome back to the GALORANTS learning program. I am Coach Vixie, and I am going to be talking today about the role of focus, autopilot, taking breaks, how to improve your autopilot, and all that kind of thing. Hi Shiku, good to see you here as always. In the background, I just have old tournament footage from an old roster that was streamed on Twitch. I think this one is from 2022, early 2022. So it just gives you something nice to look at. Okay, right. So I wanted to talk today about the value of learning. So I think everyone knows that focusing on the game is actually kind of hard sometimes. You know, you want to grind ranked and, you know, maybe you're holding an angle. Sometimes your focus just slips. You know, all of the things that you should do, but that absolutely does not mean that you're doing them. So I wanted to talk about how to build on that, how to be able to actually implement what you want to do, and also that it's okay to be bad at the game. It's okay to take breaks, you know? Okay. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is something called cognitive load theory, which is a theory in psychology that proposes that learning happens best under conditions that align with the human cognitive structure. So the amount of information that the working memory can hold at any one time. And the load in cognitive load theory is the amount of mental effort that can be used in working memory. So, you know, it takes into account things like how difficult the particular thing you're trying to do is, how's your prior knowledge, how complex is it? You know, like basic arithmetic has a lower load than calculus, for example. There's also an extra mental load in the way like information or tasks are presented. So if I was to teach you and I was to say, if I was to overcomplicate it way too much, you would have to kind of sift through everything to try and make sense of it. So it's kind of like my job to make it easier for you. And similarly, if you're trying to teach yourself, you watch TikTok, you watch Twitch, you watch the GALORANTS learning program, be very, very aware of how easy it is to give yourself too many things to think about, too many things to focus on, because it's going to be way too much. If you try and study absolutely everything there is to do about a game, and then you try to implement all of that at once, no matter how well organized, no matter how good you are, it's not going to work. And that really brings me on to the idea that making a mistake in Valorant is not necessarily a bad thing. Making mistakes can be a good thing, and making some mistakes is actually perfectly fine and perfectly allowed. It really comes down to what you're focusing on. because it is better to have deliberate focus when you play a game than have no focus. So, for example, if you're playing a game and your focus is on, oh no, I don't want to be shouted at, are you going to play well? Or probably not, you know. If you're thinking, oh no, I want to get kills, and then you mess up your utility because you're thinking on your aim and your movement, you're not thinking about your utility. Maybe you don't pay attention to the fact that your teammate needs trading because your brain is somewhere else. You're working on something else right now. That happens. It will happen. And I think that's okay. But going into games with no focus whatsoever, where you just show up and play the game, you're going to improve much more slowly and much less efficiently than if you were to go into a game and obviously do your best. You know what you're working towards, like, you know, win the game. But in particular, maybe you're focusing on, okay, I need to be more confident. I need to be able to, this game, if my team won't entry when they need to, I'm going to do it. Even though I'm playing Sage, someone needs to move into this space. I'm going to try and have that confidence and be okay with dying when I try and do that. And then maybe that's your focus for the whole game or the whole attack half. Being willing to step up if your team aren't doing their job. Over time, you do this across like 5 games, 10 games, however many games you want. That gets easier. Until eventually it requires much less focus to fill that role. Your game sense is just going to be screaming at you, I need to move forwards. We have to enter now, and no one's doing it, and you can feel much more comfortable doing that just because you've been doing it already. Let's say you need to work on your crosshair placement. You work on your crosshair placement and you go, man, my crosshair placement is really bad lately because I've been working on my mental or something. How do I fix this? So you work on being more aware of your crosshair. You make sure that when you see an enemy, it's as close as it can be to them before you see them, so that aiming gets easier. Okay, great. You play like 10 games, 15 games. You play deathmatch, you play swift play, whatever you want. And then after a while, it's no longer requiring all of your focus. That basic load is getting easier. And you'll notice that even when some players are not feeling very well, they're distracted, maybe they've got a lot going on, like, not to make a spectacle of it, that pro player who has been having a bit of a difficult time lately, he's going through some really, really hard things right now. He's still streaming on Valorant. He's still streaming his Valorant. And okay, he's not performing the best right now, but some of these base skills, like his crosshair placement, he's disengaging, he's positioning around his team. He can do this anyway. Like this guy is a pro player, and he's not having to put all of his attention towards doing that because it's just the base level of how you play the game. And everyone has a basic level of how they play the game without having to think about it, unless you're brand new. So things like the spike needs to be diffused. I know the button I have to press to diffuse the spike. You probably don't even think about, oh, I have to press 4 to diffuse the spike. You probably don't have to think about, I left click in order to shoot. Those things like that. We want to make that base level better so that your autopilot gets smarter. A situation I see a lot, something I say to everybody that I coach, is 2v1s are easier than 1v1s. Everyone agrees with me because if there's 2 of you and one of them, that fight is going to be easier. Not only that, but trading is an important concept at high rank, at low rank as well, but it's an important concept in the game. Trading being trading kills, so they kill one of you, you kill one of them, usually within about a second. So that those numbers stay the same. And this is because 2v1s are easier than 1v1s. So we look at this and we go, okay, So if you look at the screen right now, you'll see this is a 4 versus 5. If the enemy decides, oh, I'm going to peek into multiple people alone when they have this numbers advantage, they're kind of throwing, right? And this is the sort of thing that you could just autopilot. Maybe you're playing up in heaven here and you hear them on site and you think, oh, I should peek to see if they're there. You know they're there. I'm going to peek, maybe try and shoot them a bit. You absolutely do not have to. You have more people than them. They have less people. If you trade, you win. So why would you play alone when you can just trade? When you can just pick a teammate, stand next to them. Any fight they get into, you get into. Enemy runs out of numbers before you do. So often I see people there in these 5v3 situations. And then they peek to be like, oh, what's happening now? I should go have a look. I should go fight this alone. For example, you just saw on screen, Killjoy was the last person alive. There were 5 of the enemy. If one of them had peeked her to try and finish her off, that would have been kind of throwing. That would have just been autopilot saying, oh, I can go get a kill. We want to make that autopilot smarter. And the way we do that is deliberate practice. We build it up. We do this with my pyramid of skill mastery, which I show to anyone who will listen. And it looks like this. Oh, where shall I put this? There we go. That'll do. This is the pyramid of skill mastery. At the bottom level, you don't know what you suck at. Then you find out what it is. Maybe you find that your crosshair placement needs work. For me personally, I have a bad habit of over-peaking because I don't have time to play the game very much because I'm always coaching. So I just play a lot of playing deathmatch, meaning I actually tend to over-peak a little bit too much, and I get punished for it when I play in scrims, when I play in Immortal, Radiant, 10-mans, all that kind of thing. I die for it. Cool. Now I know the problem. That doesn't mean it's fixed. I need to try to not do the thing. I need to do it with effort. That's deliberate practice. So that's going to be a little bit of effort, but it's getting easier. It's taking less and less effort to not overpeak. The more I play the game, the less I am overpeaking, because just in the back of my mind, I'm being aware of how close I am to cover. Look at this position. This is really wide here. It'd be better if she was a little bit closer to that wall, so that if it goes badly, or if there's multiple of them, she can step behind cover and then re-peek if she wants to. You see this at all ranks. So we want to turn these skills, these autopilot skills, we want to make it smarter. One that I train into my team, anyone who plays on my pro team, because I am the head coach, is if you're going to peek an enemy, build in that habit of just checking where your team are, or checking how many numbers, whether the numbers work out okay. You hear them coming, you want to peek it. Do you have support? Are you completely alone? Should you even be peeking this? And so just before you peek, go, oh, wait, do we have numbers? We're at a disadvantage, we need to pick. Great, cool. Now I peek. And she's building in that fraction of a second, millisecond, just eyes flick up. Yep, I see the numbers at the top of the screen. I know what's going on. Now I don't peek. Just building in that check automatically every time before you peek to do this. Eventually, it's just automatic. You don't have to do anything. It's not, you're not making these mistakes because you don't know. Eventually, you're just not making those mistakes. And I think it is a big mistake, and it is very sad for a lot of teams to... I think it's very sad when people will be working on one thing and then they judge themselves for something else. So I'd say to someone, hey, work on your peaks. You need to pre-aim something. You're Ascendant 3. You need to be able to have better pre-aim. You need to be peeking a little bit more carefully. And they go, okay, great, I understand how this is one of the big issues with my gameplay. When they try and do this, they find that in other areas of the game they perform worse because they're not committing attention to it. They're not paying attention to things like trading, which maybe isn't quite fully automatic for them yet. They're not paying full attention to things like, you know, complicated movement or something. And that's fine. But you can't judge yourself for not doing something you weren't trying to do in the first place. You know, you can only judge yourself for what you've been trying to do already. And that's how you train your autopilot. That's how you make it smarter and better. So autopilot is a sort of natural part of human cognition. You can't pay attention to absolutely everything in the game. You can't pay attention to what your crosshair's doing, your movement, your team, your ability. Like, you can't pay attention to the complex strategies, the like complicated movement patterns, exactly how your arm is moving as you're aiming. You can't pay attention to how you're sitting. Are you breathing properly when you're playing? Who knows? How comfortable are you? Are you taking initiative when you should do? What are you doing for timing? What space are you aware of? You can't do all of that simultaneously. And if you can, it's because those things you've trained them until they're easy for you. They're just passive skills. So since you can't do all of that at once, sometimes you will be autopiloting some things. That might be how exactly you're pathing towards an area. For example, is this person consciously pathing? Or are they just kind of autopiloting running to sight, you know? Is every single step deliberate? Maybe. This is Chloe Price and she's actually pretty good. So maybe she thinks about that sort of thing. Very interesting to see this old footage. She's a lot better now. She's improved immensely over the last year. Anyway, autopilot happens. You can't stop autopiloting because there's always going to be something you have to autopilot. So we use this model that I've talked about in order to make it smarter, to train in these problems, to train in these good habits. This, before I do this, check this. And that brings me to my next point, which is about shifting the gears of your focus. I think of this like shifting the gears of a car, or like if you ever used a microscope, like in school or something, how you can sort of turn the wheel to see to like change the level of magnificate. I can't say words. How magnified it is. You can do it to see that until you bring it into focus. Similarly, think about a camera. You can change the focus. Do you want it to be the thing that's close? Do you want it to be the thing that's far? Who knows? That's up to you. And that's what I think of when I'm thinking of shifting your focus. So something that is important is thinking about shifting your focus from, depending on what you're doing. So for example, if you're peeking and you're in a fight, but you're busy thinking about a fight that's happening on the side of the map, your focus is in the wrong place. If you're in a fight and you're busy thinking, oh, I need to plant the spike, you're not focusing on the fight in front of you. And so it's important to always be like juggling your attention around where it's needed. So when you throw your utility, you should actually be aware of where you're throwing it and how exposed you are. When you are in a fight, you should be thinking, I need to hit the head. I'm not just shooting at them. I need to make my bullet land in their head. And I need to not get hit by their bullets. I need to be out of their crosshair. That's what you should be thinking. And it can be really easy to just not do that. You'll see a lot of people perform very, very well in clutches, but not very well just in regular gunfights. And it's because when you're in a clutch, there's less factors to think about. You only have to think about just these like one or two things. You only have to think about, I need to isolate my fights. They're coming from here. Pay attention to my aim, pay attention to my movement. Boom. And you just kill them one by one. And I think that's a case of this undisciplined like focus control, right? So I would really recommend, dear viewer, that you think about what it's interesting, think about what you're thinking about. Just try and be aware of what you're thinking about when you're in a fight. Are you thinking about the fight in front of you? Are you thinking about your movement? Are you thinking about the fact that you have to do the dishes? Who knows? Do you keep checking your phone? If what you're thinking is that's fine. That's knowing what you're thinking is great. Pick a thing that is not You can think you can scream. That's fine. I fully support screaming. Screaming is a-okay. But if you're thinking maybe think but also I am screaming. Where is my crosshair? You have a focus. You're working on something. However, if you're in the middle of a fight, you kind of can't really decide to shift your focus in the middle of it very easily because there's a lot going on. Something I say to people a lot is how we perform in a fight is down to how we prepare for the fight. Let's see the next fight that happens on screen. So we see that Carmack here, I think she's now signed with a big team, because this was a good while ago. We'll see that she's not really prepared for a fight. Now she's thinking about killing this, and she's peeking. She's thinking about her utility. She's thinking about her crosshair, and she's ready for this person to peek. As soon as they peek, she's going to fire. That's her plan. Like, as soon as they come out, she's going to shoot them. And she's got someone ready to support her, ready to help her. Didn't quite work out. They were ready for her, but her teammate was ready to support her. And that is kind of it, because you're prepared for that fight, it's more likely to go well. The enemy Sova was going, there's definitely someone holding me here. I'm going to peek out. As soon as I see anything, as soon as I get a hint of anything, I'm just going to shoot. And they were faster, they got the kill because of peek's advantage. So how we perform in a fight is great. So being aware that you're about to get into a fight is useful because it helps you go, I don't know, like let's say you have a issue with crouching. Maybe you crouch too much. Focus on one thing at a time, but shift that focus depending on the situation. I think I'm having a broad focus for a whole game is good. But make sure that you're actually paying attention, like you're actually focusing on something at any given moment. If you're working on getting better at the economy, that's not going to help. Like, you can't think about that in the middle of a game, you know? Like, in the middle of the round, you don't need to think about what you're buying. Just be aware of where your focus is. Double check that it's somewhere useful. Everything that you're not focusing on is autopilot. And we train the autopilot by picking a thing and then strengthening that weakness. If you see clips where you are inconsistent, where you're tilted, where you're like, I'm not performing my best, which, to be fair, you're not performing your best most of the time because it wouldn't be your best otherwise. This technique this sort of approach can help decrease the cognitive load for Valorant. It can make it easier. It can break down a very complicated, well, it's a reasonably complicated game with a lot of moving parts into something that's manageable. So you decrease your workload and you focus on the things that you're actually focusing on. If you notice you weren't really paying attention, and then you're like, I whiffed my shots, I rushed my shots. Were you trying to not rush your shots? Because if not, then maybe that's something you need to look at, and you probably shouldn't be annoyed at yourself for rushing those shots. It's easy to hold yourself to like a perfect standard in hindsight, but I think that's pretty unfair. And you deserve better. Be kinder to yourself. But motivation and desire to improve and play the game will naturally shift. It'll come and it'll go. It's very difficult to play, to have the willpower and the motivation to play 10 games of ranked a day, for example, and to keep that up for months, years. That's gonna come and go. And trying to force yourself through that kind of like burnout, that kind of just, you know, I'm not feeling it at the moment. Trying to force yourself through that, I think, is probably not going to go very well. I think pushing yourself through it to an extent is fine, but if you push it too hard, you're going to end up hating the game. And you probably don't want to hate the game. You're probably pushing yourself through it because you like the game and you want to get good at it. So what I want to say is that taking breaks is really important. It's good for healing your brain, for giving you something different to be focused on for a while. It can prevent burnout. It can help you if you're getting way too focused on your like ranked performance or whatever. Sometimes I coach people and they reach out to me because they're feeling really stuck and frustrated, and they want coaching because of this. And I'm like, I can tell you the problems, and I can tell you how to improve. But honestly, some people, I don't think they're in the right place mentally to actually do anything with that. Hi, Deluxe. And hi, Edgy Planel. But yeah, I see some people come to me and they go, I'm really frustrated with the game, I want help. And it's just very clear to me that they're already burned out. And me telling them how to improve is not going to make them improve because they're just not in a place mentally for it. So if you care about playing the game, but you know that it's not doing you any favors, it can be good to take a break from ranked, for example. I know some people, even pro players, who do things like just go play another game for a while. or they'll play with a different group of friends. They'll mix it up. They'll do anything different. You see this with people who grind aim trainers. They're like common advice for how to push past like a score plateau is take a break or just change something. So change your sensitivity, get an email, something like that. Or even just go play real games, not aim trainers for a while. The same is true for Valorant. I've had players go, I've been playing Overwatch for a while. For like the last few weeks, I'm coming back to Valorant. I'd like a coaching session. And I think that's really good. I think it's really good to go do that because the interesting thing is people will actually often be better at Valorant when they return from this break of playing another game. Personally, I've been kind of burned out on Valorant for a while now. I'm kind of getting back into it, like playing it, not just coaching it. But I've just been playing Breath of the Wild and now Tears of the Kingdom, and I'm having a great time. One thing I'm noticing, I'm performing better in Valorant now than I was when I was trying too hard. And I think that's pretty good. So yeah, if you want to take a break, definitely recommend it. You're not throwing away all that work on Valorant. Maybe you go play a different FPS game. Another competitive game, maybe try and think about how there's some overlap. I do a lot of work with like universal skills because I used to play a lot of League of Legends. I've done some fighting games. I've done some real-time strategy games, so like stuff like Dawn of War, StarCraft, that kind of thing. Think about, hey, these concepts that apply to Valorant, such as positioning, supporting your team, crosshair placement, does this apply to games like Apex Legends? Or do you need to isolate your fights in Overwatch, in Call of Duty? Does this apply to things like League of Legends? You know, who knows? I know, and the answer is yes. But ideas of how we deal with moving targets, whether you intercept them. Does this apply when hitting skill shots in other games? Does it apply to things like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate? Just playing other games, having fun, and remembering that this is a video game. We play it because it's fun, and you want to get better because it's fun. I think that's really important. Did you know that because of the way your brain works, if you've been doing something for a while, like a few months, few weeks, if you've been doing something for a while, like weeks, consistently, and you're sleeping well, please sleep, this is really important. Sleep is very important, but if you're sleeping well and if you've been doing something consistency, hi Christelia, you can actually take a break for like up to 3 weeks and your skill will continue to improve. Because your brain is still kind of catching up on all the learning that you've been doing. It can take a while for things to set in. So if you've been doing something consistently, you can take a break and not stop improving. Like if you're aim training, you do it every day for months. You take a break for like 2 weeks. You will be better at aim training when you return. Because this is just this like backlog of learning as your brain like kind of settles in. And I think that's so cool. Having some like flexibility in your thinking will also really help you. So it'll also help your autopilot. So when I play a new game, a new FPS game, I am automatically thinking about where is my crosshair? My autopilot says I need to disengage from bad fights. You see a lot of Valorant players try and play other games and they find that they naturally stop to shoot because you can't really run and gun in Valorant. But some other games are more forgiving. They allow you to just run around and shoot things. And so they have to kind of consciously break that autopilot, which can kind of teach you that you can approach the game in multiple ways. I think there's a TikTok account right now of that guy who's climbing to Immortal using run and gun only, and I think he's like Ascendant right now. You enjoy playing card games, it makes you feel like you make decisions faster. Absolutely. I think the way that card games make you think and like strategize can kind of apply to other games as well. I used to enjoy Legends of Runeterra and Yu-Gi-Oh! Never got into Hearthstone or Magic. But that sort of like strategy and setup and stuff, I feel that does apply to things like Valorant, especially if you're playing in like a team environment and it helps you decide what you're going to do a little bit better. There are definitely other games that are completely different that helps you with Valorant gameplay. What do you find helpful? What have you played that have helped you with Valorant? I mean, really, I think people just need to be a little bit nicer to themselves and stop trying to punish themselves for playing badly or something. I actually found that playing like some Soulsborne games, so like Bloodborne, actually helped me improve at Valorant, and playing, maybe it's common. Sometimes I go back to League of Legends. I find that pretty helpful. I don't know why, but so I played Minecraft helps you get used to keyboard and mouse. Overwatch helps you with the tracking. Definitely. When I do Overwatch, I play hit scan. So for those of you who don't know, hit scan is you click at the like when you click, the bullet registers immediately. Like there's no projectile calculation. So I play hit scan, which is what Valorant uses, and I play like Soldier 76. And I find that I get better at reading targets when they move. So because I'm been focusing on trying to have good aim and patience with my shots and such, when I'm playing Soldier 76 in Overwatch, it improved my like ability to see targets and track. And then all that frustration I had with Valorant, where I was just honestly putting way too much of myself into it, which is a really common problem. It got easier because I realized there's more things in the world than Valorant. You can go touch grass and play other games and still improve at Valorant. I think a lot of people, when they care about the game too much, I guess, they can get really frustrated with themselves and they kind of put their own self-worth on their performance, and then they just end up very it's almost harmful to them to keep playing, but they feel that they just need to push straight through it. Overwatch has less frustration when it's about when you're fighting, because if you die you respawn. Yeah, definitely. Overwatch is very much like a resource trading game. Trading ultimates and positions and numbers and so on. And where in Valorant, each shot that you take is very, very impactful. In Overwatch, it's much more to do with your positioning and your abilities and your movement than it is about I need to have very good first bullet accuracy. First bullet accuracy and good aim and such will definitely help you, but your individual shots are much less impactful in Overwatch. I've been playing Doom Eternal, not Doom Eternal, Doom 2016 lately as well, which is a lot of fun. The plot almost non-existent, but the mechanics, the gunplay, the movement, because the enemies all have projectile calculations with their shots. You can kind of dodge, and they don't really lead their shots unless they're particularly good, particularly strong enemies. It means your movement is very important, and you need to be aware of exactly how you're dodging and where you're dodging while maintaining your tracking and your aim and click timing if it's appropriate. And there's a lot of like chaotic situational awareness that's required, which is a lot of fun. Music in Doom is 10, absolutely. Really good game. I've gotten kind of distracted here. I'm just talking about other games and how they can help you, but it's very true. You see this a lot in other skills. So I'm also a martial artist, and I know some people who find a lot of value in cross training. So they'll train in like one discipline, whether it's like a general mixed martial arts or like, I don't know, they just do like karate or aikido or something. But then they go, hey, I'm going to go train in a different discipline like boxing or something. And just the different perspectives that it can give you on effectively the same thing. So I think of it like FPS, like game genres, right? Same thing. So by training in different ways, cross training in more than one discipline, you can learn a lot and you can improve in unexpected new directions. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I have talked about having a focus, autopilot, how to improve your autopilot, shifting your attention, taking breaks is important, it's good for you. Can lead to improved focus, better autopilot, better mental health. Playing other games can help you learn. Anyone have any questions or other things for me to talk about? Because if I'm being honest, I have run out of things to talk about. I thought it would take me longer to say all these things. And so I didn't plan this far ahead. Anyone else play any other games or have questions about Valorant in general or how to improve or aim or why is Viper Harbor suddenly becoming meta on a lot of maps in the pro scene, or how do I play Bind in the upcoming Premier games? My time is yours. Anyone got any plans? I'm actually enjoying watching back this old footage. It's quite interesting. I think it was game changers in like maybe like February 2022. I gotta say, it does not feel that long ago, but this is quite an old roster for this team. You've noticed that you can be so focused on what you're doing you don't hear comms. That's a really common one, actually. You can't focus on everything at once, so assuming you're playing in an environment where you know people will come, you can maybe make it a priority for a while. Just improve that skill and make it so that that information just like goes in a bit more easily. Because something that I see a lot of people struggle with in like the pro scene, we're talking like, you know, high radiant or like the like top of the game changer scene, is players struggling to do action comms, so struggling to keep communicating and listening and taking in everything while they're actively fighting, because they're trying to focus on what they're doing. They can't be like, oh, I'm peeking now. They're just like super focused on what they're doing. And the way to fix that is honestly just do it more. Same for taking it in. Yeah, the more you practice and get into a flow state, it'll start to improve naturally. Very, very true. I think if we are largely out of things to talk about, I'm going to wait till the end of this game ends. There's only 2 minutes of video left, so I assume we lose the next round. I can't remember. Then I will head off. So it has been absolutely lovely. I really miss the chamber meta. I do like seeing Astra a little bit more on maps. I'm very surprised to see Harbour suddenly becoming so popular, especially alongside Viper, because Viper is very like the difficulty of Viper is that you can't place her smokes easily. Like she's not like Brimstone or Omen or Astra. You kind of have to be like really careful about how you do it. And Harbour is basically the same, so it seems strange to me that you would have both Harbour and Viper, but I've seen it work very well. I've experimented with it and somehow it works. Harbour is difficult to play. I kind of want to learn him though. That like Harbour Viper thing works really well when paired with Sky. Thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the production appreciation, and thank you for attending every single one of these Shiku, and you also get private coaching from me, which is nice. If I recall, you're gold, plat now. I can't remember. But you've come so far from being that like Iron 1 player. Putting in that like, you know, sustained work. All right. Thank you all for watching. It's a little bit less structured and a bit more rambly than I would have liked, but they always end up like that. I hope you all have an absolutely lovely day. I believe there will be a lesson next week with B. I don't know what she's teaching. There should also be some more NA time zone friendly ones next week as well. So don't forget to join Galorants if you're not already in it. You can hit me up on things like Twitter, Discord, my Metafy. I have like a 40% discount code for Galorants people. All that kind of stuff. If you have any questions about the lesson, you can DM me directly or just ask it in the Galorants discussions learning program channel, and I'll get back to you. So yeah. Goodbye. I wish you all the best of luck in your games and have a good one.